everybody, and welcome to The Poll, the show where we talk about the comics that come out each week. As always, I'm joined by Joel on Twitter over at
Hello.
Cape Joel. You can find me over on Twitter at The Real Zoobs. And you might have noticed I haven't really been on the show a lot lately. This past week we had New York Comic Con, which, again, I'm so sorry you couldn't be there, Joel, but as it turns out, you
Oh,
got sick and you would have spread that amongst the rest of us.
yeah.
So,
I didn't want to be patient
it all
zero.
kind of worked out in a weird way. Thank you so
Keep your
much.
Joel cooties to yourself.
Exactly. No. So, but you were sorely missed at the
Oh, thank you.
convention. And then the week before that, I promised you guys I would give an explanation as to where I was. If you watched the Elseworlds Exchange, you probably already know what was going on. But if you weren't, I want to at least tell you guys who are only seeing this whole thing. 2 weeks ago, I was very fortunate enough to have Joel joined by Kat or Comic Uno, who took my place for the day because I was having a pretty rough week. That earlier that weekend, I found out that my cat, one of my three cats, one that you've probably seen before, and actually I have some photos of her, was diagnosed with myeloid leukemia, which is a very, very aggressive cancer of the blood, or really the bone marrow. It was something where there was no treatment for it, and her health was deteriorating so rapidly. So I unfortunately had to say goodbye to her that Monday, and it really destroyed me. She was not very old, and it's just something that's very unfortunate. It happens to younger cats, and we just didn't see it coming. And we miss her a lot, and she was usually the one who was able to get on shows because she just was
Mm.
like a love and a mush, and she had so much personality. And so, like, thank you to Joel and to Kat for taking over that week because I was in no good shape at that point. But again, I wanted to give you guys the explanation as to where I was. Thank you guys for being patient, and thank you again for taking over, and thank you to Zoe for being an amazing cat, and I
Mhm.
miss you.
Mhm.
That being said, let's get this show going. Like I said, we do have quite a list of comics to talk about. Quite a bit came out
Big
this
week.
week. We're actually going to start over in Marvel with Spider-Man number 789. Joel,
Yes.
what's going on?
Yeah, this is the first time we've talked about, I think, an Amazing Spider-Man title in a while,
Mm-hmm.
mainly because the last couple of arcs from Dan Slott didn't really do it for me, but this is the second week of Legacy, and, everything that's old is new again, even if it has the same creative teams on it. And I wanted to give this one a chance, and I gotta say, Amazing Spider-Man number 789 actually met and in many ways exceeded quite a few of what I was hoping it would be. It's the fallout of Secret Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Parker is destitute. He's lost his company. He's crashing on Mockingbird's couch because she's the only friend that he wants to see and who also knows he's Spider-Man, so that helps.
A little bit. A little bit.
It helps. He's been moping on her couch for 2 weeks, not doing laundry, and they do an amazing sight gag where she's leaving for work. I don't know what she's doing for work now because she's not an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore because S.H.I.E.L.D. fell apart.
Right, exactly.
But she's like, look, while I'm gone, do your damn laundry and also do mine and stop stealing my shirts. They then pan over to Peter, and he's wearing the famous "Ask Me About My Feminist Agenda" shirt.
Okay.
I'm like, that's a good sight gag, Dan Slott. I like that. And Peter's like, I gotta get my life back in order. And he's just getting it from all sides right now. The Bugle is really hammering on him right now. Robbie is, writing a bunch of stories about how, all the people who are left jobless now in the fallout of Parker Industries, all the people who lost their important information when webware malfunctioned. And Pete is so upset by this. He's like, dude, Robbie, I thought you had my back. I thought we were friends. He goes to the paper and complains to them in the bullpen.
Oh.
And he looks homeless at this point, too. So he's just like, Jesus, come on, Robbie. And Robbie fires back at him with a lot of pretty solid points. And then he even gets mobbed on the street. And people are like, hey, man, you weren't here that year the dome was up.
Right. Right.
So, you really can't talk and everything. It's like, ugh, man, they're not wrong for a lot of these. And also, you remember Hydra started that, fake rumor, or Doc Ock started it, where it's like, oh, Parker Industries was actually responsible for the dome.
Right.
And even
Forgot
though the
about that.
superhero community has been able to prove that, a lot of people are still more than happy to believe the conspiracy theory.
Of course, because that's a little bit, it's an easier pill to swallow in a weird way than,
Yeah.
trying to wrap your brain around, cosmic cubes changing things. Yeah.
Yeah, and magic Darkhold books and shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So Peter's like getting egged in the streets and everything, and it's really dour. Although they do plant an interesting seed when he goes to the paper. He gives their new tech and science editor
Hmm.
a piece of his mind where he's like, "Oh yeah, I read your new piece on Pym particles, and you really don't know what you're talking about." So he corrects them, and they're kind of like, "Oh, imagine if Peter could have a job where he could still work at the paper but be a big brain at the same time."
What job is that exactly? How does that work precisely?
Science and tech editor for the
Oh,
paper.
okay.
I mean, I don't read the science section. I'm more of a comics and lifestyle kind of guy.
Right, right. But I feel like, like the science and tech editor, sure, maybe he'll write some like interesting pieces, but a lot of it's going to be like, I need you to review this smartphone.
Exactly. That's the thing there. It's like, look, so they told me to review this smartphone, but I actually wrote a big thesis on Pym particles instead.
Yeah, so they're like, I don't need that though. Thank you, but no.
Actually, I think the piece was like it was like an op-ed piece on like how laptop batteries could be revolutionized by Pym technology or something like that. I think it's very tangential, but they're basically signposting it as, hey, wouldn't it be cool if Peter worked at the paper again? But his job was a little different.
Right, exactly. Like literally just being like, let's just try to go back to how it was and pretend like all this other stuff didn't happen. Except we
Yeah.
need like what they think fans want is for Peter Parker to be down on his luck once again because like yes, a lot of really great stories were told during that like time period, which was most of his life. But it's hard to do that if you keep the same person on
Yeah.
to really make change.
There's a hell of a divide in fans. Like I was even reading the comments on my own video before I came here, and some people are like, "Okay, good, finally, he's back to the Peter I like. He's back to the down on his luck, can't make ends meet Peter." Some people are like, "Oh, why did they undo his character development of being an adult and having money in a company? And why did he not save any of his money in an offshore account? Why is he broke in a couple months?"
Right? It's kind of surprising that he literally I guess has zero savings and invested in nothing. It's like he invested all in on Captain America bonds.
Yeah, I think the idea from the start was always the I'm not in this to get rich kind of millionaire. I've
Okay.
got the Uncle Ben Foundation and I've
Right.
got everything else. But it's like, oh come on, you didn't save a little nest egg.
Right, like something
You're
just
you're
in
couch
case.
surfing. Come on. Yeah, as the chat says, he's almost 30. Yeah, come
Yeah.
on.
And here's the thing, at the end of the day, like I have zero problem with returning to a down on his luck Peter
Me
Parker. I do
either.
wish we were returning to that with a different writer,
Mm,
but I do wish that they had kept some of his like you said, like some of his character development, like some of his responsibility, like don't forget that. Don't like take this as the opportunity to be like he's down on his luck and he's just like if I had everything to do over again, I would do it totally differently.
it's funny too. Slot actually kind of comes at this from a somewhat interesting angle to give credit where credit is due. Now Peter Parker's reputation is so mud and so messed up in New York, it's actually bleeding over and affecting Spider-Man to where now even when he goes out to be Spider-Man, people are yelling at him, going, "Hey, that's that guy who's friends with Peter Parker. That's the guy who worked for Parker Industries. Screw him."
Right, right, yeah. We're going back to that too. A city that hates Spider-Man. Okay.
Yeah. Yet with the caveat that after he saves the day from like a D-lister, the Griffin, everyone's like, "Hey, we were wrong about you, Spider-Man. You're okay." And him being like, "Wow, it was easier to win them back as Spider-Man as it is to win them back, or as it is to win them back as Peter Parker." That's
Well,
insane.
to be fair, like, yeah, because like, what's
Yeah.
Peter Parker gonna do on a grand scale?
Absolutely.
At
Yeah.
this
It's like
point?
Peter Parker's not going to stop, a robbery in Times Square. Only Spider-Man can do that.
Exactly. So it's kind of like, well, yeah. I mean, Spider-Man could go hang out with his other superhero friends and get some street cred that way. I mean, it hasn't really worked for him in the past, but if they wanted to, that's gonna work out great. But like, Peter Parker is gonna be like, hey, yeah, no, sorry, you think I messed everything up, but I didn't.
They also bring back the entire high school cast. The deal is that Harry Osborn and Liz Allen are back together, and they throw a big birthday party for Flash Thompson, who miraculously shows up again after fucking falling off the face of the earth and stopping being Venom. He just shows up again at a big party. He's like, "Oh, thanks, everyone. Want to know how I stopped being Venom? Go read that new Venom Inc. event that's going to start in a little bit."
Yep, there you go. Yeah.
So they drop a couple seeds for that. And there's like this really sad moment where like Mary Jane is there and everyone's partying and having a good time. And Peter shows up in his like hobo clothes and he's like looking through a crack in the door and going like, "Oh, I can't." I can't face them as a failure.
He's like, I don't want to do it. Yeah, I mean, like, that's interesting because it's like it's very like he acknowledges like that he has failed, and yet like that's so unheroic is to accept the failure and to then still face your friends and to think that like they would still be friendly with you to some degree. Like it's just that's kind of a weird thing for him to do, and I don't know if that's just creating something where they can then fix and then pretend like it's character development,
Yeah.
or if it's thing that they weren't thinking about it. It was just easier to do.
Yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing. It is a back to basics. It is a reset of the clock, but it's not the worst. It's not the worst version of that. Like, I have to admit that, like, Slott, he would seem to have enjoyed being like, yeah, I like writing a more classic Peter Parker. This is fun. I can do this in my sleep, basically, you know?
Right,
Everyone knows how
right.
this goes. And even I kind of was like, yeah, there's a bit of a nice, warm, nostalgic feel
Oh yeah.
attached to this one. I'm not going to lie.
No, and I really have no problem with that. Like I think that some of the changes they made to Peter really were not working for the character even remotely, and
No,
it wasn't taking him anywhere that was going to help him to grow as a character or to tell us
no,
really
not
any
at all.
interesting stories. However, with Slot still on this and him being in a place that he's very comfortable like this, I'm
Yeah,
concerned that yes, we'll enjoy the nostalgia, but he's not going to actually grow as a writer or even like tell
absolutely.
us anything of interest.
That's also my fear with all those X-Men books too, where it's like, okay, you're giving me nostalgia and that's nice, but you're not giving me anything new that I can grab onto, and you're not developing any of these
Exactly.
characters in meaningful ways.
Yeah, nostalgia can really only carry you for so long
Yeah.
before you actually have to do something of substance. So we'll have to see where this goes. Slot's clearly not going anywhere, and the fact is, Marvel can't afford to lose him right now,
No.
which is like a scary thing to think.
Mm, very.
but but there we are. Spider-Man number 789, the beginning of his legacy title, essentially. I can't remember what the legacy thing said on the top, but it said something. Number one. I
Yes,
just don't remember what it said, but it's up there. Don't worry.
it is. It's very up there.
So from there, we're gonna move over to DC, where I read Ragman number one.
From Ray Fox.
Yes, which every time I hear that, all I can think of is Guy Fawkes, which is not even the same spelling, but that's where I go.
Really, I think of a talking fox man who writes comics with a pencil in his teeth.
Well, there's K's and W, whatever. But anyway, I picked this up simply because of the fact that I had never read anything with Ragman at all, but have been fascinated by this character ever since I've learned about him. Simply because of the fact that his name is Ragman, and
Yes.
he does have actually a pretty like interesting mythology behind him. Being like a Jewish superhero that was
Mm-hmm.
created essentially to replace the Golem.
Yep.
So that's
Which is
really,
a great story.
it's very cool, very very cool. And we're still dealing with Rory Regan, who in this we open up with that with him being with his like company, and by company I don't mean like business, I mean like military company, in the Israeli desert, and it's like 6 months in the past, and they're essentially tomb raiding, and
Like you do.
yeah, like you do, but without the shorts and the little tank top going on there. And essentially, they're like, "Look, we've like been through hell and back in this war, and like we're not gonna leave here empty-handed." Basically, like they're like, "We're not like, no, we've seen too much, and like whatever pay we're getting isn't enough." So like clearly there's something there. They know that the area has been essentially cleared
Yeah.
of hostiles and actually of their own commands. So they're like, let's go in, and they start working their way through. And Rory is like blowing walls for them essentially, so they can get in, and they end up in a crypt. And
No
this
keeper.
no, exactly, he's not there. They and this is all told interspersed with like the modern day in which we see Rory back home at this point, and he is in meetings essentially dealing with his PTSD.
Oh.
And so we have yet another book from Marvel coming out that's kind of dealing with like this idea, not quite in the same way as Mr. Miracle is, but in essentially in the way of like, okay, so he has hang on one second, I just want to make sure somebody mentioned that they lost video, and I just want to make sure we didn't actually, oh nope, we look good. But in the sense where
We always
it's
look good.
like exactly, that is not true. But that he is like the fantasy element of what happened to him. He's like, it has to be like PTSD. When he comes back, he starts seeing people with like glowing eyes all over the city, and he's like, that must be PTSD. And when he goes, he encounters someone else who's like mentioning that kind of thing. He's like, oh, okay, well, what did you do about it? Like, there must be something that's just, I'm too stressed out. It's from what I saw over there. It's the fact that I'm the only one of my company who made it back alive.
I got survivor's guilt.
Exactly. And like he's living with his dad, and then like that carries his own like weight with it. How like they've kind of grown distant at this point, but I mean, like, look, there's a lot on his shoulders. So he ends up mentioning, or like as we're going along, we get this indication that like there's a voice that pops into his head every once in a while, and like for a second I was like, shades of Moon Knight.
Yeah, I was gonna say everything you're saying. He's a soldier. He came back. He's got messed up mental dealies.
Yeah, exactly. And what we discover,
wears a hood in his costume.
Yeah, well, it's mostly rags, and by rags I mean like bandages. But we discover that in the tomb that they found, or the chamber, or whatever you want to call it, there was like this rectangular coffin-y looking thing, and they assumed treasure was inside because it was like covered in gold. It's like these guys have never seen any movie ever. Like they've never seen Indiana Jones and the Lost Ark. You know, they just never saw it. Just didn't see it.
You don't do it. You don't open the box.
Don't look inside of it. Just don't. But they open the box, and as they're like doing that, they get like they see movement, and there's like something coming in, and as it turns out it's these scary glowy eye things, and they like open fire, and Rory's gonna like get the wall behind them blown up so they can have an escape, because there's no way out of this chamber except the way that the enemies are coming in. And they end up like the explosive doesn't work at all, so they're just trapped in there, and then we don't see what happens. And as it turns out, we find out later on that they kill like one of the things and it drops, but then it doesn't actually die. It just comes back, because we're in that kind of scenario where at that point you're like, well, thanks life. I'm just going to go now, because this is not going to work out for me. But what's in the box is revealed to be these bandages, which of course absorb souls or spirits or whatever you want to call it. And it touches all of his like company, and they're gone. And so are the enemies. And that's how Rory ends up making it out. But he essentially brings it home with him.
Right.
And, of course, his family has a pretty strong tie to this whole mythos, if you go back. And which I'm sure we'll discover in this book, but they're assuming you don't know anything at this point. So in this book, we don't necessarily know that. And in the end, like, Rory ends up becoming Ragman. And, like, the voice that he's been hearing is now talking to him more so, and is like, we have to, like, they hear screaming. He's like, we have to go to it. So they go to it, and, like, it ends up being one of those glowy-eyed demons attacking a person, and they take down the demon, and a couple more show up, and they have this big fight and all that stuff, and of course there's like crazy rags all over the place. And he ends up wanting to like interrogate one of the guys, because he's in this like rag suit, and he's just like, what is happening? Like, he doesn't really have control over what is occurring. It's just kind of happening to him, and he's along for the ride. And ends up the demon ends up kind of, I want to call it a demon, I don't really know, ends up
it's a thing,
saying that he knows certain answers, and like, you know, that he took something, blah blah blah. And then he's like, he dissipates, and like Rory's like, I wanted to talk to him more, and he's just like, I just want to go home, I don't want to do this anymore. And as he's going home, he ends up hearing the voice more clearly, and it's one of the guys from his company, one of the guys he was really close to, and he's just like, you're dead. Clearly I'm crazy. This is not happening. This is a dream. I'm not actually dressed up like this. I'm not actually out there. I'm just hearing you guys because I feel so badly about what happened. And then he hears one of the other guys, and he's like, no, you don't understand. You absorb things, and we're in here too.
So he literally brought his problems home with him.
He brought everything home with him, but like, it's like the guys are dead, but they're totally not dead in a way. You know what I mean? And so I think what we're going to be exploring is not only like his origins and a little bit more into the mythology behind it, the connection of Ragman to the Regan family, because at the very end of this, he comes back home, and like those things are there, and they have his dad, and they like blow up his shop, and like he's like, we got to take him down, and like the rag suit's like, we can't, like they're all crazy nuts. He's like, I don't care, if they want to fight, it's on. So like, I think it's interesting, like, the idea of having these voices in his head, but not just being voices in his head. Like, it's literally their spirits. I assume eventually they have to go. at some point. I think that'll be very difficult for him. But again, I think it's another interesting idea or view of the whole PTSD element. But in this case, being like, no, yes, you are suffering from it. You are suffering from the stress of it. You are suffering from the remorse and the guilt. But on top of that, you also have this crazy superhero thing attached to you now. So now you need to deal with that. And then also, like, continue the fight and not be overtaken by your own, like, past experiences. So I'm kind of interested to see where this is going to go. This was literally something that I was just like, whatever, I'll try Ragman, why not? The art was pretty cool, so that helped too. But there you go. I wanted to give it a shot, and I
picked it up too. It's funny, I have a bit of a love-hate. Yeah.
Yeah, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I picked it up too. I have a bit of a love-hate with Ray Fox. It seems I only ever read his books when he's filling in or taking over for someone else. I like the first book of his I ever read was when he took over for Gail Simone on Batgirl for that short window. And I'm like, you're not Gail.
Yeah, right? They're like, well...
And he took over for Jeff Lemire on another one, and I'm like, you're not Jeff.
Exactly, but at least in this, like, it's his own book. He's a little heavy-handed with some of the language in the beginning, and I have no problem with language, but it just felt like he was trying to set a tone. It's like, no, I'm already on board, man. Like, let it be natural, let it, like, fit at the time. But, like, they're just, like, it's a little, like, but then it finds its own. You know what I mean? All the voices really, like, come into their own throughout the book. So there you go. Ragman number 1. If you care about Ragman or had an interest, now's the time, guys. Try new things. But now in the same wheelhouse, I put this one higher up because I figured folk would be kind of excited to talk about this one. Action Comics number 989. Lots going on in the world of Superman right now. Let's be honest, and we'll talk a little more about that later on. But
Superman had a busy week this week.
Pretty hard week. But Action Comics, Joel, let's talk about that.
So yes, this is the continuation of the Oz effect, now that Jor-El has revealed himself to be the mastermind behind all of Superman's misery for the last couple months.
Yes, he sure has.
And Superman is taking it pretty hard. He's like, okay, look, maybe I've heard your story. Maybe you are my dad. Maybe you're not. But you're also pretty crazy. And if you've been watching me for as long as you say you have, you know full well I would never leave the earth. I will always fight to defend, truth, justice, and the American way.
Yep. By the way, when he first reveals himself in the previous issue, and he just all I could hear is him being like, "You're not my dad."
You're not my real dad. Yeah. Then he runs to his room and cranks Linkin Park really loud.
Exactly.
Stop cranking that Earth music, son. That's not what we listen to on Krypton. But yeah, basically Jor-El calls him out and challenges him. Yes. And it's like, oh yeah, you'll never lose faith in humanity, huh? You'll never stop fighting for them. Well, what if I have a million, terrible, soul-draining disasters happen all over the world at the same time? So, you got wife beaters, starving children, little chemical warfare for good measure.
A little bit, yeah. And then,
just a little.
And then, of course, essentially like a suicide bomber.
At the Daily Planet, some crazy fucking wingnut complaining about fake news, and I'm like, oh boy, is this topical.
Right? But what I love about this is, whether or not Jor-El it is or not. I'm not going to guess. I just want to find out in the end. I'm going to let the story go. It's just that literally he's, created a scenario that it's just yes, these things could all happen at once. Usually when orchestrated by a supervillain, though.
Yes. So absolutely.
You're kind of testing humanity at the high end of the spectrum there.
Very much so.
I'm just saying, it's a pretty extreme stress test.
Oh yeah. Oh, he's going for it, man. He's a scientist, don't you know, Jor-El? He's been working on this one. Yeah. It's a great standoff with the gun-wielding dude in the Daily Planet because Jonathan is there, and he's there with his mom and everyone else, and Jonathan Superboy could stop this. He could stop it at any moment, but to do so would be to reveal himself. Mm-hmm. And it's a really tense moment, and a really great hero moment for Lois, who kind of gets everyone out of it and kind of does the, don't take them hostage, just take me hostage thing. It's a really good moment for her.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It just shows such a strength of her character. And I'm so glad it was in there.
Yeah, really, really well done stuff. We see Superman run himself ragged all over the world, trying to stop these catastrophes, trying to stop these, chemical weapons being used on, what is there, a group of freedom fighters and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the strangest thing happens. You're like, okay, so like Superman's gonna rush in and save the day, right? He's gonna save Lois like he always does at the
Right.
11th hour because he's Superman. No, Jor-El rushes in to save Lois at the last minute. You're like, oh, he's playing a bunch of games, isn't he? He's playing every
Oh
angle.
yeah. Oh yeah, he's looking to get whatever he wants in any way possible. And whether that means like trying to appeal to Lois to some degree, go for it. I got to tell you, the Lois, I feel like Lois is a pretty good like lie detector, like a
Oh yeah.
natural lie detector.
She's like, look, if you really are my husband's father, you're nothing like he ever described you, so I don't feel like I should trust you.
Exactly. She's just like, I don't.
And Jor-El's like, well, I struck out with them. Time to go to plan C, which is I will endear myself to John, which is a lot easier because he's a little kid.
Right, and like here is where for me I kind of don't like I don't feel the strength of this overall event or this issue necessarily because we've seen that happen so many times with John
Yeah.
already.
Yes.
Um
How many villains have tried to manipulate him and turn him to the dark side?
exactly. So I'm just like if we hadn't done all of those especially with Manchester Black
Mm.
or with Mixie like yeah, I don't know. Like maybe this would seem more impactful, especially because it is his dad. So maybe they should have just held off. But it just feels like I don't know. Like
But my idea was they all came at him in different ways. Like Manchester Black was very violent and forceful.
mm,
Mixie was a little weirder about it. He kind of like came at him like a kid would. But Jor-El does really come at him like an adult and being like, "Look, I'm like you. I'm super. I'm your grandfather for crying out loud," which you've never had because like apparently even on your mother's side we don't see you hanging out with General Sam Lane or anything. So maybe you want to spend some time with Grandpa and maybe Grandpa will tell you about his ideology and his plan to make a not new Krypton but maybe world of new Krypton.
right.
He's like, imagine if I could take you away, John, to a place where you never had to hide your powers, which is actually very fitting and tying into him not being able to use his powers to
Yep.
save his mom just a minute ago. So I'm like, ooh, that's good. He set up that scenario and then made good use of it.
He did. It's just so funny because, like, look, I know the age that John is at right now. It's very difficult for him to not kind of cave to peer pressure, but at the
Mhm.
same time, like, he is the son of Clark Kent and Lois Kent now. I know she goes by Lane still, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean. But
She hyphenates.
I'm sure she does. Um, but I find it hard to believe that like he would be so easily swayed by that, especially in light of what has occurred in recent history for him.
Mm.
So like again, like I kind of wish the Manchester Black thing hadn't happened the way it happened at this point.
Yeah, it does seem like too much too close together, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. Like I feel like John would be like, no, like I don't know who you are. Like I don't care what you say. I need to hear it from my dad.
Also, didn't the Manchester Black one happen in Superman, and this one is happening in Action Comics? So I guess this is just the two writers not talking to each other.
I know, but like clearly the two books are like you know what I mean? They're together, like they're paying
Intertwined.
attention to what's going on in everyone's continuity, and it's just like yes, I totally get it. Like if one happens in one book, yeah, like it's different because it's the other book, and someone who's only reading like one over the other, they wouldn't know that. However, if you are like depending on people kind of keeping up with both and
It
understanding
punishes you for being a super fan.
it does. It really does. Like everyone, like so many people are loving Superman right now, and so many people are picking up both titles because they've been so strong. You need to take that into effect or like into
Yeah.
account as you're writing these.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like it's good, but ooh, it could have been great.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. The fact is, like, I don't know. Like, do I kind of I don't know if I want this to be Jor-El or not at this point. Like, I know I said I don't want to know and I don't really want to think about it, but like, I still
No.
like I have mixed feelings about if I hope it is or not.
Right.
Because it seems so out of character
It
for
it
him.
could go either way, and as we'll talk about in Detective Comics, just because it's Jor-El doesn't mean it's the Jor-El of this universe or the Jor-El that we know.
It's true. No, it's very, very true. So, like, that's good
I'm
to
not
keep in mind.
your actual father. I'm a version of him stolen from time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now, for me, it's so funny because, like, I am interested to see what lasting effect this will have on Superman himself.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, he's been living up to this idea and this ideal put down by his father. He's
Both
often
of them.
yeah, and like in pretty much every version of Superman that we've seen, like whether it be in comics or movies or TV, it's always his dad who ends up getting the advice from, whether it be pre-recorded or whatever. It's, I mean, yes, also Pa Kent, truly, sure, but like he does turn to Jor-El for guidance as to what he is meant to do here.
Those
And
great Marlon Brando speeches.
yeah, exactly. And then to taint him like this, I don't know what sort of growth this will lead for the character. And I'm not saying it's bad to change. I'm just wondering where this is going to go.
It's funny too when we stop and think about it. In the button, Dr. Manhattan kind of forced Batman to go through the same thing when he had Batman come face to face with evil, or well, not evil, but harder core Thomas Wayne of the Flashpoint universe.
No, it's true. And I just see a comment here, and I 100% agree. And it's something I should talk about with Sal a little bit, that we wish that Ma and Pa Kent were still alive.
I know, right? That feels like such of everything that came back in DC Rebirth.
No, I really want Pa Kent to go toe to toe with just Jor-El.
Oh, that would be awesome. Like, get away from my son,
Or
you
not
bastard.
just like literally. Like, I remember Sal and I were talking about this, but just being like, you might be his father, but I'm his pa.
Yeah, exactly. But you ain't his paw.
Yeah, like eat it, Jor-El.
I'm a throw down with this alien Superman.
Yeah, exactly. Like I wish that could happen.
I'd love that. Man, that's so good. Damn, that's so good. Someone write that in like an Elseworlds where they can make that happen.
Right?
Like, imagine if it went like this.
Right, because this is the perfect Jor-El to do this with. Or like Pa Kent's like, no. No.
The Jor-El who lost all faith in humanity, who saw only the worst of it, and Pa Kent representing the best in humanity.
Yeah, that's really is it. And it like, if they were alive, can you imagine how difficult this would be for Jor-El to prove it? Because you have Ma and Pa Kent there being like just these beacons of humanity, being like, nope.
I could see that speech being like, look, Mr. Jor-El, I'm sorry what happened to you, that, you went to a bad place and bad things happened to you, but that doesn't give you the right to be a son of a bitch. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then Ma would offer him some pie.
Exactly. And then everything would be fine.
Exactly. So essentially at the end of this, we find out like this is going to again be about Superboy, at least for the time being. We'll see how this goes. I have nothing against John. I like John as a character.
Mhm.
I do feel like we don't have to keep using him in this sense of a plot device.
It would be nice to have him, as the chat said, catch on really quick, to be like, hey, I think you're trying to manipulate me,
Yeah.
Grandpa, like everyone else.
Hey, I've seen this before, and yeah, no.
I read these stories. I know how this goes.
Yeah, exactly. I lived them. I remember that. But there you go, guys. That was Action Comics number 989. Dealing with the Oz effect. We're all stuck in it now. We're gonna see where this goes. And again, I hope it has a really strong finish. I really do.
Me too.
There was so much build up to who Mr. Oz was, so I feel like this has to deliver in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So, now before we go on to more mainstream comics, I do want to mention God Complex number 1 from Image came out this week. I'm not going to go into detail about this book simply because of the fact that there is so much going on in this book. This is I picked it up because it like this week I had 2 choices. I haven't read the other one yet. One was a fantasy steampunk world, and then there was this one, which is like a lot of science fiction. Like it's high science fiction.
Yeah,
so,
you really like books with God in the title. I've noticed you really champion those.
I sure do. This book's interesting. Again, very high with science fiction. They just toss you into the deep end with this book. They're not holding your hand. They're just like, here's terms, just you know them. I'm like, what?
Just call a chair, guys.
Yeah, like, okay, cool. But there's a lot going on in this. We definitely are dealing with humanity under the thumb of these, like, gods? Robot
Maybe.
things? They've got, like, Daft Punk helmets. But they have the ability to really, like, kind of control what folk are thinking and saying and doing and all that stuff. And we're focused on this guy named Seneca, who is a detective in this world.
Seneca, that means something, doesn't it?
I think it does. Everything must mean something in this. Trust me. I have a feeling this is coming out right now because Blade Runner just came out. We start off, it's very rainy, it's very neon colored. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's the equivalent to that, but I can see why they wanted to put this out at this time. We definitely deal with there being a church and like there are still people who believe in like a single god, and like there are these now rulers that are there who take on the names of like old gods like Hermes and
Right.
Apollo and all that.
And those
And
names were just sitting around, so we use them.
exactly. And there's just something more going on. Like I said, it's very high science fiction. I'm not going to just go into detail about it because I think it's not going to translate well to me telling you about it as much as it would be to read it. So if you really dig science fiction, this is probably going to be up your alley, especially if you dig the idea of science fiction along with like religion and like what the two mean for one another. Kind of interesting. I'll probably keep picking this up, but I don't know if I'll talk about it too much on the show again, just because of the fact that I was really trying to boil this down as to what was going on. I'm like, and then they go and put things on and fight. No,
We applaud you for trying to boil this down.
I
to just a
appreciate that.
couple words.
So I just wanted to say I did enjoy it nonetheless. But again, I know this one's not going to be for everyone. I also want to mention, because I talked about her earlier on, Karen Berger, who was the founding editor of Vertigo, moved over to Dark Horse a little while ago. She was kind of out of the comic book industry for a while, kind of got pulled back in. And in order to celebrate that, they put out a book called Berger Books.
Oh,
Which is just
nice
a little
title.
sampling of a few comics that are coming to Dark Horse, and it's just like things that she's cultivated at this point.
Nice.
She's the kind of person who really developed relationships with Alan Moore and like Grant Morrison and Neil Gaiman and all those people.
Instrumental in the British explosion.
Exactly. She has good taste. So I started reading through it. She does have the very first book in there, which I didn't get a chance to actually read. All of the selections that were in there was by Anthony Bourdain, and it focuses. It's interesting.
I love me parts unknown.
Right. But this one focuses on the idea of these like Japanese ghosts that die of starvation.
Oh shit.
And like so it's all about food, but like
Fitting for a chef to write that.
right, but also very like scary and horror. So
Anthony Bourdain is a freaking like Renaissance man. If you follow his Twitter, I like comics and nerd stuff and politics, and I'm a chef.
Right. So just, again, if you're interested in her work in general, this is a sampler, which I always appreciate because of the fact that at least it gives you an idea and you don't have to commit to an entire book. I think there's like 4 different comics in there that you can check out to see if you like it. So I just want to give a shout out there to Dark Horse and what they're doing with that. And to answer the question in the chat, have I seen Blade Runner 2049? Not yet, but I do want to, and I know I have to hurry up because it's not doing so hot, which we all knew was going to happen because America doesn't like that type of science fiction.
And because the original wasn't a huge hit
it was,
either.
but it found its home, and I did enjoy that, and I enjoyed going to that world. I even like the ending. I know a lot of people do, but I enjoyed that ending. Just putting it out there.
Here's hoping the sequel can also become a movie that, every other movie steals off its plate from for years to come.
Exactly. So I'm interested in seeing that. So don't tell me anything that happens in that. I don't want to know. I just want to go see it.
Hey, what kind of future are we in? A Blade Runner future? Yep. Is it a Blade Runner future or is it a Mad Max future?
Yeah, those are pretty much your two. You can also get a utopian. We don't really see that as much anymore.
Is it a Roddenberry future?
That one's pretty good.
It's a pretty good, if you could pick one.
Yeah, that's the one to go with. So
I want my replicators, damn it.
Yeah, me too. I also want to go to the holodeck. Let's go back over to Marvel real quick and talk about Falcon #1. Joel?
Yes, you may have wanted Tracy Morgan, but you got the Falcon. And yeah, thank you, Robot Chicken. So yeah, Sam Wilson. This is his big return to the Falcon identity in the aftermath of Secret Empire. In fact, this book probably references Secret Empire more than just about any other book in this new legacy thing, which I guess it kind of had to.
Yep, absolutely.
Sam is back in Chicago now. He's trying to defuse a big destructive gang war where lots of people are dying and even more innocent people are getting hurt in the crossfire. The local mayor is a total skis bag who's trying to, manipulate and use Sam Wilson's fame to kind of like, get him in the media more. And he's like, I'm really tough on crime and I know Falcon will help us take it to these dirty criminals. And Sam's like, well, actually, guys, it's more complicated than that. There's a lot of pressing social and economical issues that force these people into a life of crime. And no one's listening to Sam. They're already off doing other stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And he's like, no one wants to listen to me. hot damn. Okay. He's also training a new sidekick now, Deshaun Patriot 2, who kind of became his ward at the end of Secret Empire. And what's funny is while Sam is still very much depressed, trying to find his place in the world, Deshaun is very happy and he's excited because this is like his first days on the job as a real deal superhero. This is like he really got the internship he wanted.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And he's like, look, man, you got to stop moping everywhere. You got to stop blaming yourself for stuff that Steve Rogers did. You know, you got to learn to be happy again, which I think echoes a lot of people's feelings about this issue. I know I was talking to my friend Mitch, who, in fact, I think Mitch watches this show. So hi, Mitch, if you're watching. He said that he was really excited for Falcon, but was kind of disappointed to see that Sam is still depressed and everyone is still not giving Sam a fair shake all this time later. It's like, he saved the freaking world from Hydra Nazis. What does he have to do to win you people over?
I guess more.
I guess more than that. Well, he's going to be fighting the devil. Is that enough? Because we find out that this gang war is actually being manipulated by Blackheart, of all people.
Really?
Yes, the Ghost Rider villain. This is all a plot by Blackheart.
What?
Didn't see that coming, did you? But I'm like, you know what? Sam's fought a lot of villains. He hasn't fought anything paranormal. All right, that's different for Falcon.
Sure, why not?
Because it's like he gets together this whole peace summit, like he actually goes and talks to the different gang leaders. And it's like, look, guys, I know I can't change you guys overnight. Arresting you wouldn't make a big difference because you'll just be back out on the streets later. Can we at least put an end to this? And he gets like a big meeting together of all the gangsters and they're ready to shake hands and agree to a ceasefire. But then one of them, who has a weird arcane symbol on his wrist, shoots the other. And in fact, many people in the city in places of authority seem to have this weird arcane symbol on them.
They all have weird tattoos, like another book right now who has weird tattoos for the Oz effect.
It's not a tattoo, it's actually like a piece of jewelry. I just said that because it was easier.
Oh, okay.
It's like a key to a heart, because like Black Heart, so that's why.
And like Kingdom Hearts?
And Kingdom... Oh man, when is Sam Wilson going to cross over with Sora and Kingdom Hearts?
Right?
Hearts. I want to read that.
But who's writing this?
New guy, brand new actually. He comes from TV. This is his first comic.
This is his first comic, and he's just like, you know what villain I'm doing? Blackheart. Fan favorite. People love Blackheart.
People love Black. I will say, you know, I have nothing but, you know, respect for people who make that jump from other mediums to comics, because it cannot be easy. And I know many a times when TV or movie or book writers make the jump to comics, it's always like, oh, you didn't really write that like a comic, you wrote that like a TV episode, or you wrote that like a book. That was my problem with Ta-Nehisi Coates' Black Panther, which apparently got much better since I dropped off it. But my thing was like, oh, you're really writing this like a novel. There's a lot of talking going on here. Was my thing. But yeah, I want to find his name now, because I did enjoy it. I actually thought it was kind of a cool starting point.
It is, but I gotta tell you, like, I think for a lot of people, telling them that Blackheart is the villain is kind of a hard sell.
It's a bit of a hard sell. I won't lie. I was pretty surprised, but kind of like, okay, that's new and different.
And, like, here's the thing. Not that Blackheart isn't a threat and can't be a threat and hasn't been a threat and couldn't be a threat, but at the end of the day, like, if you're trying to sell this book and you're trying to sell Falcon and you're trying to sell him in the wake of what occurred, I would give him something that was a little more respectable and something that was a little more easier to swallow as his first...
Than Magic.
Than Magic, and like there's a random villain that people do not associate with his character even remotely, or with Captain America, really. You know what I mean? Like, that's a weird choice.
Rodney Barnes, that's the writer.
Rodney Barnes.
What show did he write for? I want to say he wrote for like Vinyl or Empire, one of those shows I don't watch but people like.
Listen, Rodney, if you're watching this, which I'm sure you are, that was pretty ballsy to pick Blackheart in your Falcon book.
To be the first villain.
Book. You're not even writing a book about like Nico Minro.
Nice pull.
Like, no, you're writing the Falcon book, and you said, might I use Blackheart? Is he doing anything right now? And everyone laughed.
Like, nope, not at all.
No.
It's funny because, like, you know, obviously he's still trying to, like, carry the socially relevant Falcon thing, because, you know, that's kind of what helped him raise his profile, and it's what I really enjoyed about the Nick Spencer Captain America book, where it's like, yes, you know, he's going to try and fix social ills, he's going to be different than his mentor Captain America, he's going to tackle problems from different angles, he's got fresh new ideas. Although it is kind of funny to kind of twist that and be like, no, it actually wasn't the evils of social ills. It was the devil. The devil made them do it. Literally. Literally, it was the devil.
Yep.
Or was it the devil, or did the devil only act on the evil
It's
that was in the hearts of men to begin with?
right. It's also kind of interesting right now that they would do that. I don't know if it's good or bad or lazy. The fact that they would literally, like, Falcon just came off of this, or Sam Wilson really just came off of this whole event where it was just like, yeah, no, someone like completely changed the way people were thinking, and then they acted upon that, blah 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 blah, to being like, someone changed the way and influenced the way people were acting, and now you have to deal with it.
Maybe that's intentional. Maybe he'll have a
Could
moment
be.
of like, I am so sick of people messing with other people's
Yeah,
minds.
he's like, can I just have a regular villain? Can I? What's the Punisher doing? Can I go against? Is he bad again? Can we?
Is he bad? Is he good? I can't. I
go?
can't.
He seems pretty unstable, but like with guns and not this.
Now, it's funny, you dropped reference to the Runaways. Tunisia in the chat here is telling us that Ronnie Barnes wrote for My Wife and Kids, which I liked. Everybody Hates Chris. And he wrote on the Runaways show for Hulu.
Okay, now I don't know if I'm excited or concerned because Blackheart might show.
He clearly likes Blackheart, and he clearly knows his magical universe.
Well, Nico's my favorite, so there you go. You have any other thoughts on Falcon, or should we just kind of wrap it up?
Falcon is an interesting creature, is what it is. They're definitely trying something here. They're trying something, I will say, of anything in Legacy. This actually does feel new and exciting. I don't know if it'll be good. I am definitely going to read to the end of this arc to see where it goes, because I want to see Sam do good. I really do.
All right.
I want 2017 to be the year of the Falcon.
Okay, there you go. That's Joel's goal now. Make this the year of the Falcon. We're almost at the end of the year, so you're gonna have to work kind of hard.
Well, here's the problem. If I like the book and I start championing the book, it'll end up just like Jonah Hex and Talon and Fearless Defenders and all these other books I loved that went away.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
My love is apparently as caustic as my hate, apparently.
Don't do it. All right. I know we're kind of running short on time, but we have a couple of more things, especially one very large thing to talk about. So I'm gonna try to get through this. I'm not trying to not give it its time and its due. Mr. Miracle #3. Look, if you're not reading this, I don't know what your problem is. You may have heard that I'm not necessarily always the biggest fan of Tom King's Batman, but Tom King's Mr. Miracle, OMFG. All I want.
Agree 100%.
So good. And this issue was no different. This issue was phenomenal. And when it was over, I was just like, couldn't this just come out as a trade? Couldn't I just have the whole story right now instead of making me wait?
I know, right?
So well written, so well drawn. Everything works so perfectly together. If you haven't been reading it, I'm about to ruin something for you, and I apologize for that. But in the last issue, we saw the end of Granny Goodness. And we got a pretty big spoiler about her relationship with the original High Father.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
I loved.
Now, do they do a flashback of young Granny? Because the thing people forget, Granny was actually a looker when she was younger.
No, when we see her, she was not a looker.
Oh, she was not. Okay, then. Interesting.
Right? We get to see a lot of the aftermath of that. Big Bart is the one that does the deed. And after she has a very, like, interesting conversation with Mr. Miracle himself, we see him now at home. They're on leave from the war that is waging, or raging, let's be honest. It's being waged, but it's also raging. When
can do both.
Mr. Miracle wakes up, again, suffering from this PTSD, and he goes to grab a glass of milk, and he's sitting in his living room when Forager shows up.
Oh, shit. Bugman.
Yeah. And he's complaining, or he's talking to him, and, like, Mr. Miracle's like, you really should not be here. And he's like, does Orion know that you're here? And he's just like, no, the fact is, like, he doesn't care about the bugs, and, like, we've lost, like, 6 million of us.
Uh-oh.
And, like, we need you to, like, and now Orion is waging war on, like, Darkseid himself. He's going to take it to Apocalypse. Because he's just like, he's weak. We're just going to go. We're just going to do it. We're just going to hit him in the jugular. Which is, like, not a great call, man. You don't know. Why don't you talk to Mr. Miracle? He knows what it's like to be there. Yeah. But the reason that Bugman comes to him is because he's like, your, like, group, your like, army was the one who lost the least bugs because you cared.
Oh.
And, like, that's what they're going to do. They're going to throw us at Apocalypse, essentially. And we're going to die.
will be a suicide army,
And
essentially.
like that's about the time that a boom tube shows up. And yeah, that's the end of Bugman.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. Continuity wise, I really wonder if this is in or not because like Orion is a character in the Green Lantern book right now, and also there's teenage Darkseid in the Wonder Woman
I know,
book.
I know. I'm sort of honestly hoping that this is outside of continuity,
I hope it
because I
is.
think it works a little more so like this.
It does.
So suffice it to say, we like he is destroyed. Mr. Miracle goes on to do like another trick, like in the real world. Of course, never really certain what's really happening, what isn't really happening, because a lot of times we see distortions within, like, you know, like when like back in the old like times you see this like now
Yeah, yeah.
like the effect of like a TV like being all like wavy and messed up.
Yes, younger people, in the day before digital televisions when we had rabbit ears and everything.
Literally coming out. No. They like, so we see that a lot for certain things, which makes you question what's actually happening, what's not happening. A lot of color choices make you question it too. And eventually, Mr. Miracle
Amazing
goes
color palette in this comic.
fantastic. But we see Orion talking with Mr. Miracle, and then like Orion just like starts attacking him and punching him, and like
Oh.
just like asking him if he's ever seen the face of God, and then he like takes his helmet off, and he's just like, "Cause I have," and he's just like, "Cause it's me." And like Orion's just such a dick. He's just
He
such a
always
dick,
was. Even as a good guy, he was
right?
always a dick.
But what's amazing is as as you see his face, you got that 9-panel layout. On the page, you see the distortions, and it almost looks like he's looking at Darkseid simultaneously.
Because apparently he's his kid, although maybe he might not be.
Right, but also like a question of like, is this really happening, or is he still on Apocalypse? Like, I don't know. I love this series though. I know we're only on issue 3, and like it is, I think, what is it, 12? So we're really only like a fourth of the way through, but like all 3 issues have been super strong, really visual, just great writing, really
Makes you
enjoying it.
question everything while reading
It
it.
really does. I honestly think this is going to, if you're not reading it in floppies, I think it's going to be a phenomenal trade read as well. So
Yeah, oh god, yeah. I got spoiled. I got to read Vision in trade when it was all done, and as I'm reading this as it's coming out, I'm like, God damn it, this is another one of those, isn't it? This is another transcendent, awe-inspiring shit. I should have read this in trade.
right. I think it's going to be a really phenomenal trade read. So we'll see how it goes. So now let's talk about Detective Comics, Joel.
Yes'm. Let us talk about it. Wow. So again, Oz effect in full effect, even over in this book as well. We kind of saw Tim Drake have his big reckoning with Super Daddy Not So Dearest.
Yeah.
And he's in the same crazy prison that Oz also uses as his base of operation. And we actually find out a fair amount about the prison in this issue, and that is that it kind of exists outside hypertime. That's why no one can find it very easily, and that's why it kind of plays by its own rules. And it also might explain why Tim Drake has come face to face with the Batman of tomorrow, aka a more morally dubious version of Tim Drake from a possible future that was its own, like, little standalone miniseries written by Jeff Johns. So
Okay.
of course it's in continuity.
Yep. Okay. Gotcha.
Man, that's got to be great being a writer and being head of a major company where it's like, okay, so what's in continuity? Well, everything I wrote.
Yeah.
Then we'll figure out the rest.
And then who cares?
But yeah, so we actually, they do a good job getting you up to speed on the Batman of tomorrow in case you don't know. And that is, hey, in a future where Batman eventually died and all the other sidekicks failed for one reason or another, Tim Drake eventually becomes Batman, but he feels like, this real kind of, what's the word? Like he couldn't measure up to the others in terms of like strength or fighting or anything else, but I'll be smart and I'll go to the places and do the things they can't do, which is why this Batman carries a gun.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's not really working, but
No, I mean, well, his future's really dark and fucked up.
No, I get that, and like I'm sure others have. But the fact is, like, wouldn't that be cool if that was the one thing that tied them all together? I don't use this deadly weapon. But since he's not technically Bruce, so
No, yeah. It's like, hey, guns were Bruce's hang-up, they weren't mine. I'm a genius. A gun is a tool as far as I'm concerned.
he's like, I don't use crossbows. That's my thing. Okay,
That's my one rule. I don't
use crossbows.
I do like future Tim when he talks about how all the other Robins failed. He made probably one of the best arguments for why Tim would ultimately end up being the last man standing
Okay.
as Batman.
And
He
that
says,
is.
like, look, Dick tried being Batman for a bit. He was pretty good, but he's a circus kid. He gets itchy feet, and he's like the most like normal of all of us. He met a woman, he fell in love, he had a family, and he moved away, like he always does.
Right. Right.
And I'm like, that's stating precedent. Saying, Jason Todd, his life was a tragedy from day one. He never even lived long enough to become Batman. He lost an eye and a leg and was destitute and a hobo.
Yeah. No, that's very true.
That's fair. And he's like, and Damien, don't even start me on Damien. Right there. He
Fair
almost
enough.
burnt the entire city to the ground. So it's like, oh, so Damien might actually have been worse, is what you're saying.
That doesn't surprise me even remotely. Especially,
Yeah.
at least currently, I mean, who knows? Some other writer might do something phenomenal with him that like totally changes his character and like he goes down the right path. But like as of right now, his trajectory, yeah, I could see it.
They seek to imply Batman 666 is canon and that Damian does become Batman, but without Bruce to guide him, he becomes like this psychotic vigilante who, like, is judge, jury, and execution. He becomes Judge Dredd, basically. And apparently that goes on until Tim picks up a gun and kills him and assumes the role of Batman.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, pretty freaking dark. So like Tim basically spends the whole issue chatting up with this evil mirror world version of himself, and they're all trying to outrun Doomsday, who was also a prisoner in this crazy place.
Right, right. Okay.
And eventually they have to put their differences aside and they work together long enough to escape. And evil Tim is basically like, all right, so I can't get you to see my point of view. Whatever, man. I'll just give you a little piece of advice. Make peace with Connor, at least, if nothing else. Make peace with him, and then maybe things can go different. And then the funniest thing happens. Tim's like, who's Connor?
Oh.
Talking about Connor Kent, the Superboy, who used to be Tim Drake's best friend. They were basically the Super Sons before the Super Sons. And clearly in this dark future, we see Connor being like, look, Tim, come back to us, come back to the Titans. But he's such a weirdo, he's not listening. This, like, flicks a huge light bulb in evil Tim's head. Wait, what do you mean, Connor? What do you mean you don't know? And then he starts doing scans on this dimension. Oh, my God, things have been changed. Things have been altered by a higher power. Wait, I can fix it. I can fix everything. And then he punches out good Tim, and it's like, look, I need to save everyone. I can save the Bat family. I can stop my future from coming. But I have to kill Batwoman first.
What?
Yes, apparently he says the fall of the Bat family was all related to Batwoman. Yeah, according to this crazy Tim, it's Well, he says Batwoman isn't who you think she is, because Tim says, well, in the future, why am I this crazy killer Batman? What about this team I built? What about all these different people and
What about
fail-safes?
Clayface?
Yeah, Clayface is dead too, apparently.
Oh.
He says, and Batman, he was never the same after what happened with Clayface.
Really?
Yes, yeah, apparently in this crazy future, they became such good friends that Bruce really took it hard when something bad happened to
They
Clayface.
got really close. I mean, he could turn into anything.
Anything at all.
Anything.
It's the Mystique conundrum is what it is.
Oh, yeah.
I can't quit you, Basil.
What's
Is what he
funny
would
is,
say.
like, how many books are kind of alluding to this whole Doomsday Clock, and yet we are told we don't have to read them.
Yeah, I know, right? It's crazy.
However,
apparently there's like crazy doomsday scenarios happening every day at every moment.
right, which is like I could totally see John's doing that, where he's just like, no, if you want to enjoy the Doomsday Clock, you just have to know Watchmen and then read the Doomsday Clock, and that's it. However, if you want to enjoy Detective, you also have to read the Doomsday Clock, which I wrote, of course.
Yeah, it's also funny too. Like in in the whole realm too of these evil multiversal Batmans we've been reading in Dark Knights. I'm like, wow, Tim Batman of Tomorrow could easily have been a Dark Knight.
Yeah. Yeah.
The way they're pitching, it's like, hey, I'm crazy gun-toting Batman.
Right. I like just gun-toting. He doesn't really fit in with everybody else. He's just like,
no.
He looks around. He's just like, I should not be here. I'm like the lame Cenobite.
I'm like the TV Centibite.
Yeah, I shouldn't have done that.
I'm the TV Centibite.
So, all right. So, Detective Comics. Are you digging this arc more so than the previous?
Yeah, this arc is everything they've been building up to. I can tell that James Tynion has a real love and affection for Tim Drake, and this is him just like giving him a blank check for mayhem, going whole hog. I'm sure on his whiteboard he said, "Write best Tim Drake story of all time,"
Right. Right.
and he's getting there. And I mean, geez, when you literally build a story as like next time, the fall of the Batman.
Oh.
That's pretty crazy, where it's like, okay, how did we get here? And also, too, it answers the question that many people have had on their tongue for a long time, and that is, the hell happened to Superboy Connor Kent? Why did he fall off the face of the earth, and why does everyone act like they don't remember him? This is why.
Right. All right. Well, that's kind of cool. And like, though, honestly, if they do decide to bring him back, that's just gonna make things very confusing.
Yeah.
Very, very confusing. Or we'll have to come
Well,
up with a new name for Jonathan Kent.
Well, actually, this almost works better because he was probably like Connor Kent was probably one of the characters who was worse served by the New 52. They mangled his origin and his character to say, "Oh no, he's exactly as you remember him. Dr. Manhattan just stole him from time and put him in his special prison. So when we find him again, he can just come back and be normal and be every bit the one you remember."
Right. Right.
That actually saves them a lot of time. And it also means, too, hey, we can build Jonathan Kent and we can build Keenan Kong, who is basically also a super-ish boy at the same time, a super young adult.
No, it's true. I do have one, like, all right, so you mentioned the prison. Are we talking about the Oz prison or are we talking about another one?
No, we're talking about the Oz prison.
Okay. So, which we don't know, honestly. Maybe it's Manhattan.
We don't.
Maybe it's not. I don't know. I'm interested,
could be.
honestly, to see what they're going to do with this whole prison thing and what the, like the ramifications of letting everyone out of it be, because there are some characters we could just keep in there. That'd be fun.
It's true. Like the issue sets up a hell of a precedent, being like, look, anyone who's gone might just have been stolen from time.
It's true
because apparently Dr. Manhattan can do that. He can steal people from graphic novels. He can steal them from possible futures. He can just steal them from all over the place.
Exactly. All right. So there you go, guys. That was Detective Comics. Very briefly, because I definitely want to get to the last comic we have. I did read The Runaways #2. Of course, they've relaunched The Runaways coming
just
up.
In time for the show.
Not even relaunched. They literally just keeping up with what has happened in the past. Like, it's not a relaunch. It's just literally like, let's try some new stuff. And it is in time for the show, which means, hey, remember Gert? Remember how Gert died?
Yeah.
Well, we need Gert back.
Real bad for the show.
So in the first issue, they deal with that. They use time travel, and Chase brings her back, and now we're dealing with the ramifications of that. If you know anything about The Runaways, it is very melodramatic. It is very much like soap opera drama kind of thing going on there, and that's what we're getting in this. It's Gert dealing with this and being like, I don't understand, like, where is everybody, and them having to go through what happened to everyone after the Runaways broke up, and her being just super disappointed in everyone, which is really up, like, Gert's alley for being like that, but at the same time, I'm like, dude, you weren't even here. You don't know what these people went through. But we do see that Old Lace is back, which is, of course, her dinosaur. So we've completely set it up so that, like, if you see the show and you want to read the comic, you can go to this, though you'll probably be very confused.
I bet.
But then you'll maybe want to go back and pick up the rest of it. We also, they get, they kind of lead into there's something else going on, and it's involving cats.
Nice.
So there's like these cats who are watching everyone, and they have like glowing eyes, and so something is going.
Do they have shifty eyes?
No, they're just glowing. They're just like purple glowing eyes. So we're going to find out about that, but it has to do with cats. So of course I'm interested in that. And just how Gert's like, we gotta get the team back together, even though like Molly's living with her grandma and she has a really nice normal life right now.
Yeah, time to ruin that.
Exactly. We also deal with Victor and his death in Avengers, and how like Iron Man sent Chase a box, and in the box is his head, his robot head. So Lord knows what they're gonna do with that, but we'll find out. But like I said, this comic is very that like melodrama, that same thing. If you like The Runaways before, you probably are gonna like this too, because it feels very similar. It is lacking that like Vaughn kind of like
right
from back then, but it's not bad, and I'll probably read it a little bit longer to see if it picks up a little bit more. So
nice.
So there you go. That was Runaways #2. Now the book that everyone has desperately wanted us to talk about. That would be no. I was like trying to come up with anything else that we would not want to ever talk about. I was like, I got nothing. Dark Knight's Metal #3 came out this week.
Yes.
Have you listened to the soundtrack, by the way? I haven't had a chance.
I kept meaning to. I had to rush to get through it because I was sick and I just wanted to record and be done. But I really, really should listen to that Spotify playlist
I
you
want to
made.
do it, but I'm not gonna. I haven't had a chance yet. So I'm gonna check that out at some point. Jill, I know it's a lot to talk about, so
Yes, it is.
like feel free to like jump in. Maybe I'll like fill stuff in as we go too.
Please do.
I'm gonna let you take the lead on this, and we'll just go from there and see how we do.
Right on. So, in an interesting reversal of fortunes in a story that up until this point has been entirely about Batman, Snyder flips the script and is like, hey guys, guess what? We're going to have a whole issue about Superman.
Yep. Yeah, that really
Is what
came
we're
out of
gonna do.
nowhere. I was like, oh, okay, what?
And yet, it's very deserved because once again, it's kind of Snyder saying, like, yes, I understand Superman is the center of the DC universe once again. He's important. And even though he kind of fails at the end of this issue, his importance is why it happens.
Right. It's also like, for me, I appreciate this focus on him because of the fact that at the end of the day, like, Snyder's treating Superman as the friend to Bruce that he is.
Yes.
And how he doesn't want to quit on him. And if it really only focused on Batman, you'd be like, why is no one else trying to help him in this capacity?
Yeah. And everyone else, like even like Dick, even his like favorite son is like, yeah, guys, we got more pressing matters at the moment. Let's not run and save Batman.
I know, and I gotta tell you, like, in this book, this was a really humanizing moment for Damian for me. Like,
Very.
I don't think about him in that capacity, but like when he says that they have to save his father, like I'm just like, yeah, wow, okay, like
he's still a kid.
Yeah, even if he is like this crazy like trained assassin child thing, like
Little death munchkin.
yeah, like he still needs his dad.
I like that bit too because Damien actually did a hell of a lot of growing in the Gotham Resistance series of tie-ins. In fact, he was probably the main character of those, how he brought together this ragtag team and how they, fought their way through Gotham and were eventually saved by Dr. Fate, who has kind of been recruiting every hero who hasn't been captured or killed yet.
Yeah.
And he brings them to the Oblivion Bar, home of the Shadow Pact, who, hey, Ragman was a member of Shadow Pact.
Okay, and here's what's really funny. This is the one thing that I was just like, oh, Snyder, you could have gone a totally different way with this, honey, and you didn't. You've already introduced, like, Dream to this universe. In Sandman, there's this area called the bar at the end of the universe. And I'm like,
I remember.
How are we not there?
There's still time. There's still time. Hey, they lose the Oblivion Bar, so they're going to need to find a new place.
Yeah, well, I mean, they don't destroy it. They just,
do other stuff. How cool was like Nightmaster? And this is like, oh, Nightmaster, what a fun throwback. He sings in a band and he has a sword and there's Detective Chimp.
Exactly, which is like spectacular because the fact that literally like the importance of music in this, which is so random and I don't know how I feel about it, but at the very least he committed to it, full on commitment.
Boy, did he ever. Nightmaster even gets a great, like, Captain goes down with his shit moment that I thought was pretty badass. Like, aren't you coming with us? And he's like, no, I'm not.
Yeah. He's just like, I'm going to make my stand. He does the thing. He does the thing where he's just like, I'm going to make my stand here, and it's totally going to be awesome. And it's just like...
You shall not pass.
And then he just, like, dies off panel.
He gets it fucking hard, too, when they cut back to him. He just didn't die. He fucking died.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's better than what happened to What's-His-Face in Predator. Billy.
Yeah, that was rough.
Because you just hear him scream. We see the aftermath this time, but yeah.
But yeah, the whole thrust of this is that the heroes are arguing about what to do. Superman wants to mount a rescue mission to the Dark Universe to get Batman back because he's been hearing messages from him in his dream. While the rest of the heroes are saying, like, look, man, we gotta go and we gotta get more nth metal because as Green Arrow discovered in the Gotham Resistance tie-ins, nth metal is the only thing that can actually kill a Dark Knight. You can't kill it any other way. In fact, if you just even try and punch someone from the Dark Matter universe, it saps energy from you. It's like matter and antimatter.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is smart.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I think we put so much emphasis on it in the preludes to this. So thank God it's doing something.
It's actually important. They also stress, too, what the Dark Knight's actual plan is, which, again, we got a taste of in the Gotham Resistance tie-ins. Basically, they're kidnapping everyday people, lashing them to a big metal Wild West spider, or whatever they have handy, and they're trying to change their own personal vibrations, because all Earths, as we discovered in Grant Morrison's Multiversity, move at their own frequency and their own vibrations. And the Dark Knights figure if they can change that, then they can get our Earth to sink into the Dark Universe.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're literally trying to open up a portal in a sense,
Yeah.
like in the most like normal sense. And I guess clearly they need one on the other side too.
Yeah.
Like there has to be some kind of. It's almost like a Stargate, I guess.
It's very I guess a door swings both ways, so.
So again, like music comes in like into this a lot. For me, the reason I have I'm really unsure about it is simply because of the fact that it comes out of nowhere in this. And I know it has been used before in other stories.
Yeah.
But in this, we put so much emphasis on the metal, on Batman, on all of this, and all of a sudden it's like music is the key, and I'm like, what?
Was it?
Oh.
I had to read it twice to be like, oh, yeah, Grant Morrison said that, yeah, you travel through the universe on, like, musical notes, and then even in Superman, when he met all his multiversal doubles, they said it again, that, like, yeah, we literally travel by playing music.
Yeah.
Which, again, makes sense why they had a playlist to go with this.
Yeah. Oh, not just that, it's called metal.
And it's called metal, that, too, because metal's also a type of music.
Yeah, but, like, Snyder's done such a good job of, like, casually hinting at things without hitting you over the head with it, so that later on it's like, no, see, like I've been weaving this through the entire time, that like it just felt like he was just like, and now this is the part where I'm going to do the thing that references all the other stuff.
Another great bit where he doesn't hit you over the head, we find out that the Trinity, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman have like a series of code phrases for when the shit really hits the fan. Like if they say this,
yeah,
then you know they're screwed. And it takes their initials essentially. So Batman's, code phrase is Carpe Diem, which is Latin for seize the day, but it's also C&D, Clark and Diana.
Right. Which, like, is so funny because it's just like, that's clearly what Superman's gonna listen for.
Yes.
Like, he's not paying attention to the song at the beginning, Like,
no, and Barbatos knew that, and indeed Superman played into his hands super hard, and he ended up seizing the day.
Oh, yeah. Yep, he sure did.
Or it's like, good job breaking it, hero. Good job fucking up, Superman.
Exactly. Now, of course, we've left all the other heroes off to do various
fetch quest
tasks. Exactly. Which is essentially like, they're like, we need to take someone who is like nth metal sensitive, and they only have the three of them, and then we get a
Steel, Dr. Fate, and Deathstroke, who shows up out of nowhere. Hey guys, I'm part of this story too.
He's just like, hey, don't forget me.
But a very particular Deathstroke back when he was still evil, because his costume is different.
Right, and he's looking for money. But good for him for showing up. And so
there's also a bit of a continuity foible there. They say, oh, Deathstroke has a Promethean sword and armor set. No, he doesn't. He has a Promethean sword. He's wearing his Icon suit. That is not Prometheum.
Scott Snyder is going to pretend like that's not true.
Yeah. Where's my no prize, Scott Snyder? I found a hole in this.
Exactly. Oh, and don't forget, we also have what's his face in the egg. God, brain.
Oh, Plastic Man.
Thank you. My brain was like plastic egg. I'm like, stop saying plastic egg. That does not help you at all.
That's a whole different thing.
Yeah, I'm like, I was thinking Easter eggs. So we also have that. So like everybody splits off, and they're all on the hunt now.
Atlantis, the Rock of Eternity.
Yeah, so they're all gonna go to these various places, and Superman whizzes it in record time by totally mistaking.
Sure does.
And then of course Batman can't just like be like, oh, that sucks. He has to make Clark feel bad.
Oh yeah, he has to really guilt trip him there, like, oh man, you couldn't decipher my perfectly fine riddle.
Yeah.
You didn't know you had to play it backwards and forwards and put it in a mirror.
Right. The fact is, like, they really should have come up with a better system.
They really should have.
This is not a strong system, guys. Okay.
No, it was very, very easily manipulated by the villains.
I agree. So now, of course, they're both there. They're both in this, like, dark universe, essentially. Superman is the battery that they need to complete their tower, essentially.
Apparently, he's the bestest battery. They said, look, this was taken forever using regular everyday Joes, but you're Superman. You're like a big ass Duracell
That's
battery.
right, right. I mean, like technically, he absorbs the sun's radiation, the yellow sun. So I mean, yeah, I
That's fair.
totally see that. We also find that, of course, that John is fine and he is safe somewhere, but Lois was unfortunately turned into a doomsday monster.
Oops. Well, I mean, so was everyone in Metropolis. It wasn't just her.
No, but like they didn't save Lois.
No.
Which is unfortunate.
They boned that one up too. Actually, it's funny. We even before we get his tie-in, we actually hear a little bit about the Devastator, the evil Doomsday Batman, and that is, yeah, in an alternate universe, Superman went to the dark side, and Batman shot up with a bunch of Doomsday DNA to try and fight him.
Yeah, exactly. So, which is cool. Which I look forward to seeing that. But overall,
It was a fun moment too, where Superman does what he always does, trying to appeal. It's like, oh, if you were Batman, if you were ever Batman, let me appeal to the shred of goodness that is in your heart. And Batman that laughs is like, nope, not gonna work on us. Zero good.
Not this time. Sorry. If only gun wielding Batman had showed up.
yeah, that guy had a shred of good in him. Gun wielding Batman would have been like, yeah, let's hear him out.
Exactly. That's why we ate him.
That's why you don't get to be a good knight. You still have like a shred of good guy in you.
Yeah, precisely. Overall, this issue felt kind of weird. There was a lot of talking, very little action. Superman was acting as Superman has been known to do, but like it felt a little drawn out for me.
Yeah.
Like I feel like we could have taken a few scenes out, but I get it. He definitely wanted to hone in on very specific elements of this.
It's interesting we have two members of the Trinity off the table now. It's all up to Wonder Woman to lead the superhero community.
For the time being, I honestly believe that based on a cover that is coming up, which I think is actually for the next one, Dream is going to come back. I have a feeling he will visit him in the Dark Universe. I am wondering if we will see a return of Carter Hall in the Dark Universe.
Hawkman is getting a tie-in. We've got Batman Lost and Hawkman Found.
Yeah, so I am wondering if he is somehow wandering around here. Again, because Dream does have such a tie to his dear grandfather, I wonder if that will come into play.
Well, that's your story right there. He Dream finds Hawkman. Is like, dude, hey, you're my grandpa. It's confusing, but look.
Trust me, it's some part of me is definitely related to you.
A part of you imprinted on me, and a part of me imprinted on you.
Exactly. So I could definitely see that Dream might have put him in like some pocket area for the time being. Or he's just wandering around and Dream somehow kind of keeps him safe. I don't know. All I know is I'm hoping, I don't assume anything based on covers because covers don't always tell the truth, that we will see Dream return here and that's how Batman and Superman are going to get out of this and return to us.
Absolutely.
So we'll see how it goes. But there you go, guys. Oh, what did you think, by the way, of the issue? Before I go,
I thought it was really cool. I didn't think it was as like mind blowing as the previous four, but then again, this is the one that kind of gets down and dirty in like setting up a bunch of stuff and like actually setting parameters and answering questions and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Just going back briefly to the music thing really quickly because it just popped in my head as like a funny thing. Remember that Justice League episode where Diana gets turned into a pig by I think Cersei? And then
Love
like
it.
he and like Batman and Zatanna team up, and then at the end like Cersei only wants him to sing a song.
He's got to sing a song.
It's where my brain's at right now.
I'm blue. Yeah, to defeat the Dark Knights, Batman has to sing a song.
Hey, we've seen it before, just not normally with Batman. So
and the Dark Knight's like, oh no, his bars are so fresh, we can't handle it. Gotta go back to the Dark Universe.
Yeah, pretty much. So there you go, guys. There's a lot of cool stuff that happened in Dark Knight's Metal. There's only so much we can talk about in this time frame. Literally, we didn't even mention the fact that there was like crazy cyborg Alfreds running around.
Yep, that was in Murder Machine we met those
right?
guys.
But we see them in here. That's a thing that happened. That's a thing that can never be unseen.
There's Joker dragons. There's all sorts of crazy shit.
So, I hope you guys liked this show. So we're back for the time being. We're seeing what's going on. Comic Pop kind of moved its shooting day to this very day, so I gotta figure out how that's gonna work out. I gotta leave here and go shoot shows. So we're going to bring this episode to a close. Thanks for hanging out with us. Don't forget, if you want to hang out with Joel at Cape Joel over on Twitter, want to hang out with me outside the show,
Please do.
over on Twitter at The Real Zoobs. And again, I apologize for my absence lately. But
It's understandable.
if you miss the beginning of this show when it comes out, you'll be able to find out all about that when it goes up on the Weekly Pull YouTube channel. But again, thanks for hanging out with us, guys, and we'll see you guys next time. Enjoy reading your comics if you didn't already. Have a good weekend.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.